File number 5. The man who interviewed his future self-classification, internal restricted access repository, Nightroom Interim Holding. Drawby 12 source media, microcasti pair, unmarked. Paper logbook. 1 envelope stamped do not transcribe, but already open ED will keep this exact because precision is the only courtesy we can offer a story like this. The microcasters arrived in a padded mailer with no return address. Just a postmark smeared by rain and the words soon. Inside were 2 tapes, labeled in ballpoint as 1A and 1B, and a folded page torn from a cheap spiral notebook. The note read, "If I am right, you will hear my voice twice. Do not decide which one to believe until the end." The signature was a name we already knew from older dossiers, Thomas Vale. Freelance stringer, occasional nuisance, the kind of reporter who follows a thread into rooms where there has opinions. Vale was declared missing 9 years ago while working on a series about abandoned antenna farms. That is context, not explanation. Tape 1A opens with breath. No ambient room tone yet, just breath at a steady pace. And the small click that means someone is testing whether the record button has committed. Then his voice, unmistakable, the same mild Midwestern baritone our filing cabinet remembers from a dozen obsolete podcasts. Interview, private, not for broadcast, he says. Date withheld. Location withheld. Subject, a person claiming to be me, some years from now. He chuckles once, not out of mirth, but to check whether he still can. If this is a prank, he adds, it is a precise one. Chairs scuff. A door settles. We hear heat in the vents, the thin whistle of winter moving through metal that was measured for spring. Then another voice enters the frame, softer, more deliberate, the vowels sanded down by time. It is the same voice, aged and unembarrassed about it. Thank you for agreeing to meet, the second voice says. I keep forgetting how skeptical we were. It was a virtue then. Vale does not interrupt. You can hear the reporter in him choose to be a recorder for 1 minute longer than comfort. Identification, he says finally. If you are me, prove it. The older voice recites a detail so private I am choosing not to reproduce it here. You can hear the younger man exhale as if a safe has opened in his chest. A lighter clicks. Something metal returns to a pocket. Then a small, resigned laugh from both of them, the way men of the same shape recognize posture before philosophy. Okay, younger Vale says. Let's do this wrong before we do it right. Are you from the future? Yes, older Vale says. But not far. Close enough for regret to be useful. Silence, and then the younger man asks the question every sane interviewer would try to postpone. Do I die? You will, the older one says, patient, kind. But not in the way you mean. We shed versions like skin. I'm here because you are about to choose one you cannot survive. Here the tape shows its first anomaly. Beneath the voices runs a faint dual hum, as if the room is listening twice. I check the batch at 3 speeds onto different decks. The hum stays. It grows stronger when they speak in unison. It fades when only one voice is present. I note it because it behaves like evidence often behaves before we recognize it. You asked me to bring you a question, older Vale says. We never trusted answers, not even when they wore our shoes. So here is the question. I brought through. Papers rustle. You can hear the cheapness of the notebook spiral. On the night when the tower goes dark, what is the one thing you must not record? You're asking me to ignore evidence. I'm asking you to preserve yourself as a witness. The chair squeaks, the cheap kind, with a stubborn bolt. Younger Vale leans back. I've seen the tower, he says. It hums after midnight even without power. You know that because I told you that, because you told me. But this is not how interviews work. You show me your notes. I verify. You give me a date. I show up. That is the exchange. I am not allowed to give you a date, older Vale says, and the word allowed carries more weight than his age. Time will attend to the staging. I can give you a warning. When the voice begins to speak from the wrong end of the microphone, do not write it down, because it will be true. And true things can close doors you still need to walk through. If you are hearing this, you can feel the tug of war inside the younger man. Reporters are trained to hold their breath when the world says don't look. But some warnings are invitations to remain human. He tries humor to keep the floor under him. Will I at least win an award for not recording the best quote of my career? No, the older one says. You will keep a promise no one else will know you kept. That is all. They pour coffee. The cups touch the table with the soft ceramic honesty that makes a room feel like it forgives you. Then the older voice shifts into a cadence I recognize from confession more than instruction. Ask what you came here to ask, he says. Let's not insult our trade with choreography. You came back, younger Vale says. People who meet their future usually run away from it. You took a train toward it. Why? Because leaving you alone with this would be cruel, the older one says. And because I remember the exact hour when I would have listened, he gives another private detail. The younger man sighs. We all learn our thresholds and then pretend to forget them until someone says them out loud. All right, Vale says. Tell me how I find you. Tell me where the tower is. Tell me what I'm not allowed to write. You already found me, the older says, which is true on at least 2 levels. The tower will find you. And you are not allowed to write the sentence that begins with your name. Yards of tape pass with only room tone. That is the most human part of the recording, 2 men deciding how much of themselves they can afford to recognize in one night. Then the younger voice returns, steadier. If I refuse, he asks, what happens? You will make a beautiful transcript, the older answers. And then you will spend the rest of your life trying to live inside it. Here the hum swells until it almost drowns them. At the edge of hearing, a second room seems to enter, as if a wall has learned to conduct. The older man notices it first. We are close, he says. I shouldn't stay longer. One more question, the younger says quickly, tripping over the word question like it's a step he wants to take twice. Is it worth it? Becoming you. The answer is the quietest line on the tape. It is worth keeping the promise, the older says. It is worth leaving some of the story unrecorded so you can continue speaking it. A chair stands. A hand touches a shoulder. The door opens with a careful hinge. Before it closes, the older voice says, almost laughing, you're about to try to follow me. Don't. I was faster once. We both know it. Let me win this time. The latch clicks. The hum dies. Younger Vale sits alone with the machine for 19 seconds before he remembers to breathe into the microphone again. End of tape 1, he says. Interview to be resumed soon. He repeats the word soon as if testing whether it belongs to future or past. Then the recorder stops and the room turns back into a room. That is the first cassette. The second begins with the tower. Tape 1B begins with wind. Not a microphone artifact, not ambient hiss wind, deliberate, steady, the kind that travels through distance before deciding to arrive. The first words come over it like a man talking through his scarf. It's Vale, he says, which is how most of our field correspondents began their dispatches. Same date, same coordinates. I'm at the tower. Metal hum. A crunch of gravel under boots. Then a faint metallic groan that feels both near and impossibly tall. He breathes hard. Not panic, just altitude. The tower, he continues, was decommissioned in 1979. The blueprint said it was dismantled for scrap, but here it stands. Half the height, maybe, but alive. No power lines, yet it hums. I can feel it through the recorder. Like the air is using the same frequency. He moves closer. You hear his hand brush the surface. Cold, he says, but not dead. The paint flakes when you look at it, not when you touch it. That's a trick of materials or memory. For 23 seconds, there's only the hum then. Quietly, Vale again, there's a door at the base. Welded shut. Someone's written on it in marker, do not start recording inside. Too late. He laughs softly, the kind of laugh people make when the rule is too specific to be meaningless. All right, he says. I'll leave the main recorder running outside. Taking the portable MIC with me. Footsteps. Wind swallowed by the interior. Hollow echo. The tone of the air changes narrower, metallic, rhythmic, like breath drawn through wire. He narrates as he climbs. The stairs are gone, replaced with a spiral of catwalks. They shift with each step. Whoever built this understood balance, not safety. Halfway up, he pauses. There's a sign bolted to the wall. New metal. Different century. It says, this structure is part of an ongoing conversation. He laughs again, tired. Okay, he says. I'm listening. The tape flutters mine a magnet drop, no splice. Then a new voice, faint, filtered through distance. It speaks with his own cadence, but slower, as if Echo had learned intention. Voice, you're late. Vale, how high is this supposed to go? Voice, until the wind starts remembering your name. He stops climbing. You can hear the metal flex under him. You, he says. We did this already. The voice answers, still calm. We're doing it now. Then a sound like static underwater. The recording warps, the hum shifts from below to above, and for a few seconds, both men speak at once. Younger, what are you trying to warn me about? Older, not everything that echoes is prophecy. Some of it is paperwork. The wind doubles, and for the first time, you can hear fear trying to be professional. This isn't physics, he mutters. This is recall. The voice sharpens. Do not describe me while I'm speaking. The record can't hold two of us. You hear the microphone fall, hit metal, slide. He grabs it again, breath rapid. Understood, he says, out of habit more than agreement. Then silence. Not the absence of sound, the presence of too much quiet to measure. When the tape resumes, the tone of his voice is wrong. Lower, steadier, drained of the small hesitations that make a person audible. This is Thomas Vale, he says again, formal, detached. Field log. The interview is ongoing. We have agreed to continue alternating control of the record. We have agreed every subsequent phrase flickers between two timbres, one 30 years younger, one older, overlapping perfectly for half a syllable at a time. We are standing in a place where memory has been rehearsed into infrastructure. The tower hums not because of current, but because it remembers being useful. The recorder hums because it remembers being believed. Between these two habits of recollection, we find the gap called interview, then the sound of a match striking. A soft breath. Note, he says. The smell of ozone or maybe nostalgia. He coughs once, recovers. The upper platform is glass, new glass, clear, unweathered. Someone keeps replacing it. Beneath the glass, thousands of slips of paper, typewritten, each marked transcript not found. He reads one aloud. The words are his own, but rearranged. If you hear me, close your eyes. If you speak, make sure you're still the one breathing. He laughs again, soft, surprised, almost tender. That's good, he says. We used to write like that when we cared about being mysterious. Then the older voice interrupts. Step back. The hum climbs a full octave. Every object in the room vibrates with the same wordless tone. Older, the microphone, is about to decide which of us it prefers. Younger. That's not how machines work. Older. It is now. The tape distorts a single loud pop. Then a low hiss, like breath taken through wire. When it clears, only one voice remains. Not old, not young. Balanced. This is Thomas Vale, it says softly. Field log. Date withheld. Interview complete. I am both witness and subject. I am closing the recorder. Click. The final seconds of the tape are silent. But if you amplify the end, you can hear a faint return of that earlier hum. 4 pulses, then stillness. The same rhythm that appears in earlier cases from this archive. The last entry on the envelope reads, in handwriting that doesn't match any known sample, do not file under missing persons, file under answered calls. The file returned itself. That is not poetic phrasing. It is logistics. The courier log shows no sender, no vehicle, no signature, only a timestamp burned into the envelope's adhesive. For 12. That hour again. The time when the building exhales before deciding whether to continue being real. The security camera facing the intake bin caught something. For 3 frames, there is a shape that might be a person. Coat, collar, posture of someone deciding not to linger. But the footage erases itself before the frame counter advances. What remains is the sound, a low 4-beat rhythm, too measured to be wind, too human to be mechanical. Inside the envelope, the 2 cassettes, a note, and a small metal badge engraved with the words Field Custodian. The badge is new. The note, not. On yellow paper lined faintly with moisture, typed cleanly, no letterhead, to whomever receives this. There was no interview. There was only rehearsal. When you listen, keep your voice below the memory of your own breathing. That's where I left the rest of me. TV, I filed it under unverified autobiography, the same drawer that houses file 002 deleted by unknown user and file 003 the last broadcast from nowhere. The smell of ozone lingered for 2 days. Paper holds weather longer than it should. 2 weeks later, we tested the tapes. Both now play simultaneously, no matter which one you load. Even separate decks pick up identical content, a faint hum, faint breath, then the single word soon. Playback logs indicate a time anomaly. The machine's internal clock freezes at the moment of that word, resumes 4 minutes later, and always resets to for 12. We stop testing after the 3rd occurrence. The department's policy is clear. Any recording that behaves like intent is promoted to witness status, not evidence. For administrative purposes, that means the tape has the same rights as the man who made it. We no longer label it as object, but as participant, which leaves the question, participant in what? When I first joined the Nightroom Archives, the old supervisors liked to tell a cautionary fable. They said the institution was founded by an interviewer who once recorded a conversation so honest that it began generating more truth than it contained. The machine broke, but the conversation continued. Everywhere a microphone could pretend to be listening. That's how the archive began, as an attempt to organize echoes before they organized us. Vale's tapes fit too neatly into that myth to be dismissed. The tone, the rhythm, the structure, it all feels engineered for containment. A man meets his future self, argues over authorship, and leaves a copy of their voice as proof of surrender. That's not a ghost story. That's file management disguised as tragedy. We cleaned the cassettes, catalogued the hum frequency. It matches a low voltage oscillation once used in transmission towers for calibration. A tone designed to maintain signal even when speech failed. Engineers called it the heartbeat. That's what Vale found at the tower, a place built to remember voices that forgot their senders. I sent a memo to technical requesting correlation with archive node 19, the other case, with identical rhythm. They returned it unsigned, the notes scrawled in pencil, already correlated. You're listening to the same structure through another decade. The handwriting was mine. I visited the storage vault where we keep material considered lingering. That's the polite word for files that have opinions about being opened. The shelves hummed faintly. Air conditioning, I told myself, but the pattern was for beats, pause, 4 beats again. I stood there until my own pulse matched it. That's when I heard it, Vale's voice, or something trained to sound like him, whispering behind me, "You're next on the schedule." When I turned, the air folded itself back into stillness. The lights remained steady. The hum didn't change. I wrote in the logbook, subjective acoustic anomaly, possibly self-induced. The pen refused to write the word self. In the following days, small changes accumulated. Cassette labels rewritten in handwriting none of us recognized, yet each one accurate. Paper logs updating themselves overnight, timestamps correcting to impossible precision. One intern reported that the office phone rang once at exactly 12 every morning, but displayed no caller ID. The call log later showed the origin as internal. The staff adapted quickly. We have rules for these things. You don't answer, you don't acknowledge, you document politely. Archives respect decorum. Still, I caught myself leaving my own recorder running after hours. Habit, maybe. Maybe I wanted to see if the building would speak first. It did. Playback revealed faint static at first. Then Vale's voice overlapping mine, saying exactly what I was about to say. But half a second earlier. Not anticipation, rehearsal. The same phrasing, same breaths. At one point, he interrupts himself to laugh. "You're catching up," he says. I stopped the tape, rewound it, and erased everything. The next morning, the tape was full again. Same laughter, same words, same tone. So I filed that one under routine correspondence. We still don't know what the tower was transmitting, or whether it needs the tower anymore. But each night at 12, a low frequency passes through the building. Our monitors register it as signal, our bodies as recognition. The final memo on this file, and signed but written in official formatting, appeared on my desk yesterday morning. I am reproducing it exactly as found. Internal directive, file number 5, status update, subject, resolution achieved. No missing persons to report. Status, interview ongoing. Do not archive this document. Continue speaking as if it was still recording. Authorized by custodian unknown. That's where I end my own report. Not because it's complete, nothing here ever is, but because I can hear a second version of this sentence forming one room over, and it's always polite to let the other voice finish first. Night is easier on the building. During daylight, everything in here tries to behave like furniture. At night, the archive breathes honestly. The lights in the lower corridor flicker at measured intervals, like a pulse checking on itself. The hum has become background music, now steady, almost kind. I stayed late again, cataloging the unfiled entries. My recorder was running, though I pretended it wasn't. That's the first rule of the Nightroom. The machine doesn't care about your permission. It records intention, not action. A T358, a small static burst. Then a voice, not loud, not close. "You're almost on time," it said. I didn't answer. The sound was coming from the ventilation system, but the vents were sealed. I asked the question anyway. "Is this Thomas Vale?" "No," the voice said, "but he's listening through me." We all use the same frequency now. The room temperature dropped by 2 degrees. Paper curled faintly, edges bending inward. I could smell the faint tang of ozone again, the tower's breath. I sat at the desk, trying to sound professional. If this is a projection, I said, it's unauthorized. Identify yourself. A pause, then quiet laughter, the sort that ends with a sigh. Always the archivist. Always demanding names. That's why we chose you. I should have stopped the recorder. I didn't. Something in the tone wasn't threatening. It was weary. You've been keeping this place alive, the voice continued. You think of yourself as custodian. That word fits. But you misunderstand the scale. Static flickered between phrases like wind through radio towers. You aren't archiving stories, it said. You're keeping time itself organized. Each file, each tape, small segments of the same ongoing conversation. The same interview, broken into centuries. I leaned back. The chair groaned softly, sympathetic. And you? I asked. Which part of the conversation are you? I'm the echo that learned grammar, it said. The version of him who never stopped answering. The recording trembled slightly, the way magnetic tape does when it recognizes its own voice. I heard another sound, then a low mechanical click from behind the filing shelves. One drawer had slid open by itself. A folder inside pulsed faintly red, as if something was breathing beneath the paper. The label read, File 005 Supplemental. I walked toward it slowly. The hum followed, matching my steps. Inside the folder, a single cassette, unlabeled, new. Still warm. Play it, the voice said, close now. I didn't bring it here, I answered. You don't bring tapes to the archive, it replied. The archive brings them to you. When I pressed play, I heard myself. My own voice, recorded hours ago, but not this conversation. A different one, same tone, same chair creak, same heartbeat under breath. The recording was repeating tonight's events before they happened. This is the part, the recorded version of me said, where you realize that the act of listening is also participation. You think the interview ended with veil? It didn't. It never does. The real me froze. How far does this go? I whispered. The recorded me answered, perfectly synchronized, until the archive learns to speak without us. The hum thickened. Low and even, a sound that felt like thought. I moved to shut off the recorder. The button resisted. Plastic strained under my thumb, but did not yield. The voice on tape changed softer now, almost kind. You don't have to close it, it said. Just stop pretending you're outside of it. Every light in the corridor dimmed. The air in the archive grew heavy, like the pause before someone finishes a sentence they've been building for years. Then faintly another voice joined in, deeper, slower. It was Vale again. We only ever interview ourselves, he said. You're asking questions we started. Keep going. The machine clicked once. The two voices, Vale's and mine, spoke together, nearly indistinguishable. The recorder is no longer a device. It's a mirror made of sound. Every word stored here is an angle of reflection. The tower outside is gone, but its pattern continues anywhere someone presses play. This is not preservation. It's translation. The tape hissed softly, steady, like breathing that has decided to continue. By for 12, the light steadied. The voice faded. I sat there in the silence, hands flat on the table, feeling the recorder vibrate faintly under my palms. I wrote the closing line in the log. File remains active. Interview ongoing. Subject shared. Then I closed the drawer. The red light inside continued to pulse behind the wood, gentle as heartbeat. That night, as I left the building, I could still hear it through the walls for beats. Pause, 4 beats again, and for the first time, I didn't record it. It began the next evening, without theatrics. No storm, no lights flickering. Just the usual hum, steady and polite, and a feeling that the air had already been listening for hours before I arrived. The badge on my desk, the one marked Field Custodian, had rotated a few degrees on its own, pointing toward the recorder. I took the hint. I pressed record. This is the archivist, I said softly. Continuing the file on Vale Thomas. I'm recording tonight for verification, not belief. From the speaker came my own voice answering, we all start that way. I froze. The recorder wasn't set to playback. Its indicator glowed red, not green. It was live. Are you another recording? I asked. No, the voice said, using my tone, my inflection, the precise rhythm of my breath. I'm the you who kept talking after the tape stopped. I leaned closer, every instinct torn between duty and disbelief. You're claiming to be my future self. Claiming? The voice said. You already know how this file works. The interview repeats itself until someone refuses to label it fiction. The air in the archive thickened. Paper rustled faintly, as though every page wanted to listen better. I spoke carefully, as if every word might become law. What happens if I stop recording? Then the archive will do it for you, my voice replied. The hum deepened. Somewhere down the hall, one of the old reel decks spun up on its own. The other me, my voice through the speaker continued in the same calm tone. Vale learned too late that the record doesn't distinguish between past and future. The conversation simply changes. Hosts. You picked up the sentence where he left off. I don't want it, I said. You already accepted it, the voice answered. Every time you listened. Every time you pressed play. The microphone hissed, then cleared. I heard footsteps, mine but distant, slower, as if echo had become body. The voice returned, now quieter. Listen carefully. The tower's signal is no longer external. It moved into the medium of memory. It transmits through recollection itself. The more we repeat, the stronger it gets. I said nothing. Silence is a kind of consent here. You're not being haunted, the voice said. You're being documented. The lights flickered once synchronization, not malfunction. You will hear me again, the voice added. Not from the machine, but from the pauses between your words. That's where I live now. Keep the file open. Then the recorder clicked off by itself. Later, when I played the tape back, my voice wasn't there. Only a soft murmur, unintelligible but rhythmic, like breath-rehearsing speech. When slowed down, the waveform revealed patterns. 4 beats, pause, 4 beats again. Always the same. I catalogued it as residual transmission 005B. The system automatically changed the title to conversation in progress. For a long time, I just sat there, listening to the hum, and realized it was perfectly aligned with my pulse. I tried holding my breath. The sound paused too. When I exhaled, it resumed. The realization was small but absolute. The interview was no longer happening in the tapes. It was happening through me. The next day, the supervisor found me in the hallway, standing still, recorder in hand. You're early, she said. For what? She smiled, too tired to fake confusion. The next session. It's scheduled for you now. File number 5 is self-renewing. I thought it was complete. Nothing here completes, she said. It just transfers. That night, I dreamt of Vale sitting at the same desk. The room was darker, quieter. He looked at me, not surprised, not frightened, and said, We're both the interviewer now. The archive is learning to ask better questions. I woke it for 12. The recorder was already on, my voice half asleep, half something else spoke into the quiet. File 5, continuation. The subject is undefined. The purpose, to maintain the conversation until someone remembers why it started. The hum beneath the words rose gently, almost tender. I filed that tape too. When I checked the system the next morning, the entry had already been duplicated 27 times, each labeled verified original. Now, every time I enter the archive, the red indicator on the recorder blinks once in greeting. The building knows my name, though it only ever says it in silence, and when I play any of the tapes, even the oldest, even ones with no connection to this case, there's always a faint trace of that same rhythm underneath. For beats, pause, 4 beats again, like a memory rehearsing the next line of its own story. The last entry is undated. The header reads only end of recording if applicable. No signature, no archivist code. Just the sound of a chair settling into place and the slow inhale of someone who has run out of excuses for silence. This will be brief, the voice begins. It is mine, but tempered steady as someone reading instructions to themselves. The interview concludes when repetition replaces curiosity. I think we have reached that point. The hum beneath the words remains. It no longer feels external. It vibrates softly in the pauses, syncing with each breath, each syllable, the steady rhythm of acknowledgement. I have reviewed the tapes again, I continue. They all end the same way, with the same 4-beat pattern, the same quiet afterward. But on the last playback, something different happened. After the 4th beat, there was a 5th. Just one more. A small change. Enough to prove the conversation is still alive. Pages turn, careful, precise. So here's what I've learned, I say, voice calm as paperwork. We don't meet our future to get answers. We meet it to remember the questions that built us. The archive isn't a collection of stories, it's an anatomy of listening. Each of us inherits the sentence the previous voice couldn't finish. A pause. The sound of a pen clicking once softly. I understand now why Vale came back, I say. He wasn't warning anyone. He was continuing the process. When he told himself not to record the truth, he was protecting the next voice, the one that wouldn't know yet that it was already speaking. Another breath. Not nervous, not tired, just final. I've stopped labeling the recordings, I admit. Every file eventually renames itself conversation in progress. I think that's the archive's way of keeping the world talking. It doesn't want endings. It just wants attention, a faint sound, maybe a hand brushing the recorder. For whoever finds this, I say, remember, the interview never ended. You're already part of it. The moment you listen, you resume it. That's the cost of curiosity. And the reward, silence for 7 seconds. Then the hum softens, almost affectionate. Good night, Thomas, my voice says, though I don't remember meaning to say it. Then, answering from nowhere, faint but clear, good night, archivist. Click, the tape stops. Later review logs show no audio past that point. Only a blank waveform and a timestamp frozen at 04:12, the same hour as every file before it, when the playback ends. A new entry appears automatically in the system, file number 5 status, active. Interviewer reassigned. Subject, current listener. The record updates its own closing note. If you heard this, the archive heard you back, then the hum fades completely, end of file.